she's been with Best Missouri, you know, I don't know, Mike, you'll have to tell us how long and stuff, but she's also a scrimshaw artist. And on the back, all those drawings, she's done those. She says when she travels, she does drawings and stuff. But if you're in the Columbia area, I know Mike has stuff at Blue Stem. I've got one of her pocket knives, and I've got a money clip that she has done the scrimshaw and stuff. Beautiful work, has won tons of awards and stuff. So Wanda, do you want to do any housekeeping before we get started, or?
Mike is pretty well open to you asking questions as you have them, so feel free to, and if you prefer to put something in chat, Kim and I will moderate the chat as well.
Yep. Okay. So if you have any noise in the background, I think everything sounds real clear right now, but if you got a dog that starts barking or something, if you'll mute yourself. But like Wanda said, if you got questions for Mike, go ahead and ask them. And so Mike, we are delighted to have you here with us today. And fill us in a little about you. I mean, you are so involved in the arts and have been an integral part of Best Missouri Hands. So we thank you for that. And go ahead and roll with it.
Well, thanks, Kim, for inviting me, and Wanda, thanks for inviting me today. And it was fun looking back through some things to get ready for this. You made me feel old. It was a trip down memory lane. And as I went through some of the things that I had, I realized we were pretty much pre-internet, pre-website. I mean, we communicated through the mail or telephone, and we had some members back then who didn't even have telephones. So not that it was that long ago, but some folks were just a little more remote. So you probably know the Best Missouri Hands started with the University of Missouri and the Extension Service through Lincoln University, and that was back in '82. And it wasn't really an organization. It was started as a book. And a book was published, and the book was called The Best of Missouri Hands. It was a catalog that was intended to help, especially rural families, supplement income with skills they knew, crafts, basically. It was a lot of traditional crafts. And then there was a second edition published. It was published again in '86 and '88. I think there were 3 or 4 total. Anyway, so the University of Missouri spun the organization off and made it an all-volunteer organization. And when that happened, I think around '86 that it left, '86 to '80, somewhere between '86 and '89, I'm not real sure. Edie Pig, who was the executive director, left. And I joined the organization in the early '90s. I juried in, I think it was '95 or '96 when I juried in. And it was tiny. We had a conference. That's about all we had, was a conference once a year out of Jeff City at a retreat center that was run by a church. It was really rural, really remote, because there was like a main building where we took our meals and where we had our meetings, but around it were little cabins that didn't have running water. So if you had to go to the bathroom during the night, you had to run up the hill into the big house. It was crazy. Anyway, one of the early meetings I went to, like in '99, I think, or 2000, I got strong-armed, literally, by a staircase by a couple of members who go, you're going to join the board. Because back then we had so few members, and you just kind of, everybody took turns. Okay, it's your turn. And we had, the election was held at the conference. So I said, okay. And they go, oh, and by the way, we need a vice president too. So you can do that. I was like, no. I had been on several other boards, and it was like, no, that's not a good idea. I said, because does the vice president become president? Oh, no, I was told, no. Yeah, that's because the presidents had always run screaming from the conference because the bulk of the work fell on that person. So but there wasn't that much work. It was just organizing the conference. So anyway, I joined, and I was the vice president, and it was pretty easy. We only met, I think, once or twice in a year. That was it. And then at the next conference, we had election, and the president had already left by then. He was moving out of state. He had left. And so I got elected president after I was told that wouldn't happen. Anyway, I ended up serving 3 terms as president. I took a year in between the second and third off. And Tom Hoover was president, and then a couple years as advisor, and we were finally able to bring back an executive director after 16 years of vacancy.
Wow.
And the organization hired me. I'll go along with that. I stayed with Best of Missouri Hands until as executive director until the beginning of 2011, when I left to be the executive director of BoardLink. And BoardLink is or was an organization that trained nonprofit boards, and we were funded by the 10 major nonprofit funders in the St. Louis area. So things like Washington University, United Way, University of Missouri, etc. So I trained boards, and there we developed kind of like a match.com system where we could match board members with nonprofit organizations. And then I trained the boards in best practices. And then from there, I was offered a job by Missouri Citizens for the Arts, which is the state advocacy agency for Missouri Arts. The 5 humanities are the 5 cultural partners: Missouri Arts Council, Missouri Humanities, the Missouri Humanities Council, the Missouri Historic Preservation Trust, Public Broadcasting, and the library system. And so my job there was to work with our lobbyists in Jefferson City and work directly in government to make sure that those entities were funded. And I stayed there until I retired in the end of 2016. I've had an art business for 45 years. I started in 79, and I still do scrimshaw. I only do a handful of shows these days, but I do sell to a number of galleries and shops in US and Canada. So that's the bulk of my work. I also teach for St. Louis Community College. I teach studio painting and business skills for artists here. And I also am arts editor at a magazine, St. Louis-based magazine, where I've been for about 20 years, writing a monthly column on the arts. So that's my background. I think it was interesting when I joined Best of Missouri Hands, we had a mission, and the mission was this: we've got to be a C3. We've got to be a 501c3. Now, this is going to be boring for just a minute, so hang on. The IRS has all different levels of 501cs, and those are nonprofit organizations. There's about 20, 25 different ones. And we had always been told we were a C6, which means a trade organization. We're like a realtors group or, a trade union, etc. But anybody can donate to those nonprofits, and the organizations can take donations. But at that time, the donor couldn't take it off their taxes. So why would anybody give you a donation if they couldn't take it as a tax deduction? Well, the answer was nobody did. We didn't get anything. We were little. At that time, we had 75 members. And so
Wow.
the work was to become a C3. And again, pre-internet, things were not available online. So I had to write to the IRS, and they assigned us an agent, very mean agent. She was, woo. Phone calls with her were very unpleasant. And she said, well, you can't get a C3 because it has to be a children's charity, not us, a hospital, not us, a religious organization, definitely not us, or an educational organization. And the name of your organization is Missouri Artisans Business Development Association. And business development is not a C3. Nope, not going to get it. So I went back to the board, and we decided, the boards were just great. I have to admit, I worked with some wonderful, wonderful people. We have to change the name. We have to drop business development. So we became Missouri Artisans Association. And that's how the name changed back in 2002. Probably no, that was probably 2001. And so at that time, we waited until the conference and we had a meeting and everybody voted on it. Like, are you sure it's okay to change this name? They, members all understood, yes. So we changed the name. And I go back to the IRS with all my little paperwork. And I said, we're a C6, but we want to be a C3. And now here's our organization. And our mission is education. We train the public, we educate the public about our art. And the IRS agent said, who told you were a C6? And I gave the very intelligent answer of everybody. Well, as it turns out, when MABDA, Missouri Artisans Business Association, left the University of Missouri, nobody had ever filed anything. We figured we would qualify as a C6, but we hadn't. And someone back then had applied for a C3. The IRS said, no, because of your name, but you could qualify as a C6. Well, it's like when you play telephone and messages pass on and on and on. And as they passed on and on and on, we kind of went from you could to you are to we're a C6. So the IRS agent, this very unpleasant lady, said, you've never filed anything. And so you've never filed taxes for all the money you've taken in as dues, and your board will be responsible. And that was at that point, like, 15 years. And I just pled guilty and I was just so upset. And I said, what can we do? What can we do? And she goes, okay. I guess I charmed her because she said, we're also at fault because the IRS has not caught you before now. So let's pretend that your organization is starting right now. And so that's how we got our C6. It was a miracle. Okay, we're starting from scratch. So in 2002, we were granted C3 status. We finally got all the paperwork in about 2007. It took a while. And then in 2007, I was able to apply again to get that C3 for the Best of Missouri Hands, or to get that C6. So Missouri Artisans Association is a C3, can take donations. We're an educational organization, and we could host shows, etc., through the Best of Missouri Hands, which was a trade organization that is a C6. So that's the backstory on it. So we got through all that, and I went to a meeting. I can't even recall. I don't remember if it was a Citizens Day in Jeff City or something where there were a lot of arts organizations together. And I trooped along and introduced myself to all the other presidents and executive directors who were there. And someone said to me, "You're from where?" And I said, "Missouri Artisans Association, the Best of Missouri Hands." And this person, I still remember, went, "Oh, that's that little craft club in Columbia."
Oh.
And I went, "Oh, boy, that stuck with me though." And I thought, we've got to do something. We're more than a little craft club. We have fine artists, wonderful people doing wonderful things across the state. So that became the new mission. Once we became a C3, we were eligible for some grants, and we got a capacity building grant from Missouri Arts Council that enabled us to hire the Rome Group. And the Rome Group was a well-known, still is, well-known arts advisory and consulting firm in St. Louis. And they put together surveys for our members. They put together surveys for the board. What do you want? The board could have just torn their hair out, I'm sure, because we had to go through all the bylaws and update everything. We developed a mission statement, a vision statement. We started developing all kinds of printed materials. We had brochures. We brought an old one along. We made rack cards, and we had those in the visitor centers, Missouri Welcome Centers around the state. Just anything I could do to get attention for the organization. And the idea became, we want Best of Missouri Hands to be everywhere, so people just know it. I went to one board meeting and we said, yeah, I had seen how another state, the state of Kentucky has the Kentucky Crafted program. West Virginia had the Tamarack program. And I'd gotten to know those two executive directors and kind of leaned into them, like, how'd you do it? What happened? And they all told me they were supported by the state. They got, not necessarily money directly, but they did have the support of their legislators and their governments. So I thought, that's what we got to do. So I wrote a letter to the first lady at that time in Jefferson City, Missouri's first lady. I didn't have the nerve to write to the governor, so I wrote to his wife. I thought, maybe she'll be understanding. At the time, it was Lori Holden, and she was also a real arts advocate. She enjoyed arts. She'd been active in her own arts council in her community. So it was a very simple letter. I just said, dear Mrs. Holden, please allow me to introduce myself and Missouri Artisans Association. You should get to know us. And I sent along a couple little pictures, I think. It was probably snapshots because my computer didn't print at that time. Actually, it was a word processor, I think. And she called and said, I'd like to know more. Will you come to Jeff City? Ooh,
Wow.
okay. So I did. I went up to Jeff City and I met her in the Capitol and we had a wonderful meeting. And she said, you know what? Anyway, I ended up putting together a booklet of information of other states. I did a lot of research and she asked me to come back and present it to the Department of Tourism on how much money our little craft club helped to generate toward the state. How much were people making at shows? How many people came to the shows? It's to try to raise awareness. And she made it very clear. She goes, I can't give you money, but I can try to help you. Yes. So one of the first things we did was when dignitaries would travel to other places, they would take it's kind of like a little binder full of like a plastic ruler and here's a pencil case and just some kind of that said Missouri on it. She said, I want to start giving gifts that are handmade. So she started commissioning Best of Missouri Hands artists to create little things that they could take when they meet another governor or when they would go overseas or anywhere they would go. When they had to give a gift, it was handmade. It was wonderful, just wonderful opportunity. One day she said, instead of meeting at the Capitol, why don't you just come up to the governor's mansion, meet me there. Okay. So I drive up and there's nowhere to park. So I parked on the street and I walked up to the gate. There's a big gate with a driveway and there's no way to get in. So I walked around to the front. I thought, I'm going to the front door. Walked all the way around. That front gate's locked. So I walked back around to the driveway gate and just then a car had pulled out and the gate was open. So I just walked in. And I walked around to the front door and knocked and nobody came. And I thought, maybe this is like, you know how some buildings, the people live upstairs, but downstairs is offices. Maybe you just walk in, it's probably an office. And the door was open. So I just walked in and they're having this big luncheon. And I just went, oops. And I backed out and closed the door. And I stood on the porch with my heart just like pounding. And this voice goes, Mrs. Ochonicky, please step back. And one of their guards came around and got me. And I went, I'm really sorry. And anyway, he brought me in a different way. And when I did meet with Mrs. Holden, she said, I'm not, I apologized profusely. She goes, I'm not worried about you coming in. I'm worried about how you got that far. Anyway, it became crazy. So from there, there's a big Christmas tree, holiday tree every year in the governor's mansion. And I talked with Mrs. Holden about what was on it. And she said, big balls. And I said, how about could we change that? What if we put some handmade things on? So we brainstormed and it took us many months and we got a little project going called the Ornament Project. The first year we had 71 artists who made,
Wow.
golly, some 179 ornaments. And I had to call everybody or write them a letter. And it was anybody who was in Best of Missouri Hands, make an ornament, hang them on the tree. I had several artists who said, you don't understand, I don't make ornaments. And I smiled and said, I don't either. But guess what? If you hang this on the tree, you can forever and always say your work has been displayed in the governor's mansion. Isn't that worth it on a resume? So that's how it started. The first year, they ended up having to extend, they normally had a 2-night open house for the public to come in. They had to extend it to a 3rd night because so many people came. And we continued that for the rest of the years, three more years, I think. Each year a different theme. And those ornaments became the property of the Missouri Governor's Mansion Historic Trust, I think. Anyway, they kept the ornaments. When the Holdens also decided that at state dinners, they would like to have 2 artists from the Best of Missouri Hands at each state dinner, held with different dignitaries to display work and then talk about our work and then have dinner. And so it just rotated, who's up for it. We made the rule that you had to be juried. If you're a juried member, you put your name in the hat and we drew them, just random. So it was a really interesting opportunity to meet a lot of people that normally would not come in contact with everyday artists. We went on until the Holdens left office and they commissioned a cabinet to be made by 2 of our members. Heinrich Linnard designed it and Lou Swacker made the cabinet. They were both members at that time. A big walnut cabinet that still hangs on the back wall in the governor's mansion on the porch. And at first it was just some of our ornaments that were permanently on display with a little plaque that told about our organization. When the Blunts kept it that way, and then when the Nixons came in, Mrs. Nixon decided that it would be nice to rotate, to change. And I think that's what y'all are still doing that, right? That it rotates different display.
That's what it was for a couple years, Mike. And I forget which governor came in and stuff, but they did some remodeling in the house and they took the display down for the remodel and stuff. And my knowledge, things have not, well, I know things have, it hasn't gone back up yet, or I don't know if it ever will or not. So we've been in contact with them a couple times, and so hopefully that will be put back up. And it was nice. Cool.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. Cool project. Nice way to raise awareness because a lot of people go through there and they find out about the organization. So anyway, on the national level, from that we started connecting. We sent the Hoopers and Nina Potts went to the White House to make ornaments when the Bushes were in office. They invited us to send someone, and through the governor's office, we connected. And again, it was random choice. And so they made ornaments and they went as guests and attended that reception. And BJ Weber, I think she's passed. She was a Columbia artist, was chosen to create ornaments for a tree in Iraq for the US troops one year. So we weren't necessarily tied to government or tied to holidays, but it was just a way to raise awareness. And we did. We started making the news. We started making St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Springfield Leader, the Jeff City paper, the one in Kansas City. We started making the papers because we were using the celebrity of the governors to connect with us. And they were, wherever they went, they attracted the press, and there we were. We got a lot of TV coverage, radio coverage. Crafts Report did a feature article on the Best of Missouri Hands. And so we really started growing. By the time I left, we were close to 500 members. I don't know where you are now, but we were like 498, trying to get those last couple. Anyway, we got really, really close. So along the way, we developed a website and enhanced it. We partnered with state college in Sedalia, and they offered what were then called online classes. They were basically PowerPoint programs that you could watch online, and mostly in Photoshop, some on writing, to just help artists. We also developed an online library, and through Crafts Report, they allowed us to publish on our online library their articles free of charge. So that was nice. You could, if you're away at a show, nothing to do, you could, read an article there or whatever. We started giving members their own page. That wasn't so at first. And then we connected with Department of Commerce, the Cabinet Department in the state of Kentucky. And Best of Missouri Hands was the first outside state invited to the Kentucky Crafted Show. The Kentucky Crafted Market was wholesale and retail, one of the largest shows. And they invited us to send artists as a showcase, kind of. And so we used it as training. We got 6 booths, and we divided that space for 12 artists. We were cozy. And anyway, we were the longest standing group that was invited there, all Kentucky artists except us. And then from that, they started to expand to other states. We sent artists to the Buyers Market of American Craft in Philadelphia. Same thing. We got cheapy guild booth, and then we split it. So we shared the spaces. They allowed us to do that. And we got more people there. The St. Louis Gift Show, some of the Acre shows. We hired a professional newsletter editor. So it wasn't mimeograph like it used to be. We had a nice printed newsletter. And eventually we went online with the newsletter. We purchased laptops, which was a major thing. We had a laptop for the executive director, for the president, and for the treasurer. And the idea was, we're not going to have one of those letters that gets lost from the IRS if we keep it in laptops and we pass them from one person to another. So that was a big help. Silver Dollar City invited us to start sending artists. That was through the hard work of Jeff Walker at that time. And we started bringing artists in there to demonstrate, and grew and grew. I think that was probably around 1999 or 2000. And then in 2009 was when they started having an exclusive Missouri Artisans Association showcase, which was really nice for our juried members to display. Missouri Life magazine had monthly displays in their windows of our artwork. And we did a lot of fundraising. We had an annual raffle. 3 artists would donate items, and then we would ask each member to sell 10 tickets at $1 a piece, and we raised thousands of dollars. And then those 3 items were drawn random, and we shipped them off. So you could buy the tickets yourself, $10 with, for all of them, or sell them to friends or whatever. And more people found out about the Best of Missouri Hands. The board diversified. I'm really pleased to see that. We had the first one that came on board was Danita Wood from Missouri Life. And she goes, I know nothing about art. And it's like, that's why we want you, because we were all artists. And so artists all think like artists. We needed people outside of the arts to tell us what's not clear, or what do we need to do, or how can we engage you. So she came on board. The former First Lady, Laurie Holden, came on board. She was a board member for a while. We had another board member who owned a hotel. It was just a mixture. And they all brought the resources and the connections that they had to help improve the organization, which was important. Through capacity building grants from Missouri Arts Council, we got one from Google, and we got one from InstiPrints, and we got from BoardLink. Even Silver Dollar City had given us a grant. We were able to really do a lot of development. We qualified for the through Missouri Mid-America Arts Alliance. We qualified for a federal grant that was the Americans Reinvestment and Recovery Act of $15,000 for 2 years, which covered my salary. So it was it was a good thing to have. Yeah, Kim.
I just want to ask you, Mike, about the grants. Did you have a person on the board that was specifically, going out and seeking these grants, or was it kind of a board effort, or how did you guys do that?
Yeah, me. I
Okay.
wrote the grants. I wrote the grants. We had anytime a board member would hear about something, it's like, tell me, and I'll see if we can qualify. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. I wrote a lot that we didn't get. I'm not gonna say it was all easy, but anytime anybody heard anything, it was like, keep your ears open everywhere. What do you find out? And I really think that the mission statement is what guided us so much, because even if you had a good idea, if it didn't follow our mission statement, we weren't going to go after it. So we really focused in on that. And I won't sugarcoat it. The board was very diverse and we didn't all agree. We had some real headbutts. And that's how a board should be, because if you're all thinking the same, you're not thinking. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to come up with other ideas, what ifs, and it really helped a lot. I really do think we had just such an engaged board, and developing board terms helped, because you knew you weren't going to be there forever. You wanted to do what you could and help where you could. It really just worked well. We were able to bring on some other benefits. We had FedEx discounts and some lodging discounts. We got mutual show acceptance, which was a biggie, at various juried art shows. If you were a juried member of the Best of Missouri Hands, they would accept our jury process. You're automatically accepted. That was critical for members to get to do other things. And then toward the end, I ended up connecting with AIG, which is it's an organization for designers. Because we had sent members to the buyer's market, our organization had to be a member of this guild, and therefore our members did qualify for their discounted group health insurance. It wasn't the best, but it was something at a time before the Obamacare. So many of our members didn't have any health insurance. So something was better than nothing. And that was kind of where we were. Our conferences brought in really diverse speakers. Everything from Bruce Baker, who taught about selling, to Eric Booth, who was on faculty at Stanford University and came from the Kennedy Center on educating the public about the art, and the author of The Everyday Work of Art. We brought in Dr. Arian Goodwin from University of Massachusetts, and she was all about writing artist statements. Robert Fishbone, who is a wild and crazy muralist from St. Louis. He's probably best known for the guy who got sued for using the Scream, Edward Munch's The Scream, on coffee mugs and table t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So he came in and talked all about licensing and engaging people. Nancy Atcher from the Kentucky Crafted Council came. We just brought in all kinds of different people to keep the conferences as fresh and as vital and interesting as we could. So I've rattled on for a long time. You want to look at some pictures? Or can I answer any questions? Okay.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed, Mike. I've learned so much. I mean, I loved it. And you've given me ideas of things that we kind of need to try to, bring back to life or pursue and stuff. So no, I greatly appreciate you.
Oh, well, it wasn't just me. I mean, as I said, we had a board that was so boards, because they kept changing, who were so helpful. And like I said, our focus remained the same. It's like, if you're not buying into this mission statement, then nope, we don't need you on the board. And people really worked. And one of the things that we did on the board, a suggestion was, rather than, it used to be a working board where everybody was a busy bee. And my hope was to get the board to where they chaired. So we assigned a project to each board member, like you're working on conference and you're working on newsletter and you're working on, and then it was up to that board member to get helpers and to diversify the work. So they basically just acted as a manager, which really lifted some of the burden off the board, and I think engaged more members. You know, it wasn't all me, and it wasn't all easy, and it didn't all happen overnight, but boy, it was a wild ride. It was pretty crazy. So,
Well, and that's how the board is still operating is we have the committee members and folks that, you know, help in that committee and stuff. And it does make it a lot nicer because I think it plays to each person's strength because
it does.
Yeah, each person has things that they're really good at and very beneficial to the organization by serving on the board and stuff. So that way someone doesn't feel like me, like treasury. You don't want me as a treasurer. I don't know anything about that or that kind of record keeping and stuff, you know, but I can definitely help with the social media and everything. So it allows everybody to, you know, I think play to their best part. So that's
does.
nice. I'm glad that happened.
2
Yeah.
years I had
Okay,
unpaid interns also from Truman State, who just kind of helped out, did a few little member things and that sort of thing. And that was helpful. And it got them some experience. Also in the membership, we diversified the membership a lot with all the different categories. So that we also had student members, which they didn't get a website, they couldn't jury, they weren't any, we basically, you know, it's just income for us. We had out-of-state members who could be members of MAA, you know, Missouri Artisans Association. They couldn't be Best of Missouri Hands, they couldn't be juried, but they could be general members and attend our conferences. We actually had 2 members who were incarcerated at the state penitentiary, because I remember their newsletter was mailed there, but you know, they were artists and they were interested. We partnered with VSA, which is it was started by Rose Kennedy in the 60s, and it stood for Very Special Artists. Now they just use VSA artists, and they were artists with disabilities. And at 2 of our conferences, through a grant, we had sign language. We had signers for the conferences, and we had artists with disabilities who came and showed their work. Some that became juried members. So it was just a great way to spread our art over everybody and get to know so many different people. And we all learned, we all did. This is a booklet that we put together for the anniversary of the organization. It's still around somewhere. I've got an old copy here. And the beginning was just a history, because we didn't want to lose what we knew about it. And a lot of the members took out individual pages and showed their work in it. Brenda Beck, she's got one here. Silver Dollar City supported us by paying for the back cover, and Missouri Life Publishing, and we sold some of them. We had them around in visitor centers, etc. It was a nice little booklet.
Okay.
But one year we had our conference in St. Louis at the Frontenac Hilton, really nice hotel. But because we were in St. Louis, we were eligible to apply for grant funding from Regional Arts Commission. Regional Arts Commission only funds St. Louis and St. Louis County based organizations. I sit on one of their grant review panels. And so we got grant funding from them because we were an educational organization, and because we received grant funding, they said, you are eligible for the Art Commandos. And the Art Commandos were their volunteers who would come and just help out at whatever art event you needed. Most of the time they were like ushers or handed out, you know, programs at plays, things like that. They came to our conference, and here's some of them, and they helped set up the membership table and this and that. I will tell you a funny story, and I'm sure this member would not mind me telling it. I'd been in Jeff City and talking with legislators, and there was one representative, Representative Gray, and she goes, well, I'd like to know more about your organization. I said, well, we're having our conference in St. Louis. If you'd like to come, we'd love for you to come and sit in and see it. Oh, I will. So one of our members was out here at the membership table. Everybody went into the main room for the main speaker. And I said, there's a representative who's going to be coming shortly. And when she does, just come in and get me. Oh, sure, no problem. So it had been quite a while. And representative hadn't shown up. So I got up, I left the meeting, and I came outside. And here she is standing at the table, stuffing membership packets with her husband. Well, it turns out when I said something, I went, oh, Representative, great. And one of our members goes, Representative, I thought you were in our commando. She simply walked in and said, I'm here for the Best of Missouri Hands. And she'd go, oh yeah, here, start putting these in the folders, thinking she was one of the art commandos. So she and her husband, this state representative, were dutifully stuffing all our folders. It was fun.
That's a good one.
Oh, and one year we had Billy O'Donnell came to our conference and painted during the, I guess that was during the frolics or during one of the sessions. And then we auctioned off his painting. So that was just, we tried to have some fun entertainment as well as the frolics.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. You want to go on? There we go. At this, our little power group here, Amy Rome from the left is the president of the Rome group. She was responsible for helping us organize all those surveys and make sense of a mission, etc. Me, Nori Boyd was in the center, was the executive director for Missouri Arts Council. Next to her is Nola Ruth, who at the time was leaving as executive director of MACA, where I think Michael Gaines is now. And she was moving on to become the chair of the Missouri Arts Council. And next to her is Christy Kittleson from MACA, Missouri Association of Community Arts Agencies. This was in Jeff City. So we got everybody to come to our conferences so that they could see firsthand what our organization was all about. Yeah, you go on.
That was very wise.
I'm sorry. Kim,
I said
you
that
cut
was
out a
very
little.
wise. Yeah, I said that's
Yeah,
very
we
wise.
tried to
drawing
invite-
all these
We
different-
invited everybody. It's like, come and see, come and see. You'll see what we're about. We had the First Lady came to 2 of our conferences and got to meet artists and look at things. These are just some of the front pages over on the right side. And I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed showing you the kind of photographs that we have. Kim, you'll be such a good photographer, but these are just front pages of papers. The one on the far right was when Nina Potts and Tom and Pat Hooper went to the White House, and that's Mrs. Bush there.
Wow.
And then, of course, Laurie Holden in the center, and the one on the left was for Art Stravaganza. That was in the Post-Dispatch. When we did Art Stravaganza, we connected with a DJ, John Carney, a radio personality on KMOX radio, and he had Carney's Kids, which was a foundation that funded, Delta Gamma for blind children, Rankin Jordan for hospital for children with burns, severe burns, special needs advocates, the St. Louis Crisis Nursery, and he had a fundraiser every year, a gala, that happened to coincide with our Art Stravaganza. So our artists would donate a piece of work. He gave us all kinds of free radio time, advertising, PSAs. We plugged everything in return for the donated work. And over some 4 years, the Best of Missouri Hands artists raised about $5,000 for those children's charities. So we're really pleased about that. Okay, next one. I think I hate to ask you to click, but
That's
or
fine.
scroll. Okay, yeah, we can go on. Oh, that was the Crafts Report article that they featured for Best of Missouri Hands. It actually went on another page as well. So it was, we started to get some recognition.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the next one, Silver Dollar City, if you want to scroll up. this was their poster that they put out with the Best of Missouri Hands logo. And that started a whole discussion in our board on who can use that logo, because technically that was the juried members. That was property of the juried members. So we couldn't release it. We had to alter some bylaws and put it up to vote. And following that, we had some galleries that approached us and asked if they could be designated as Best of Missouri Hands galleries. So we had one in Cape Girardeau at, I think it was the old Southern Hotel. Other areas or other galleries in different places could have a Best of Missouri Hands designation in a portion of their gallery if they clustered all the Best of Missouri Hands artist work in one place. So we were very protective of that logo and made sure that, you know, it was something that a shop would really want to earn to be able to show Best of Missouri Hands work. And then this was, I think that's Jeff Walker in the photograph, the big tall guy, and me down in the middle. And then two of the managers from Silver Dollar City. That was maybe the 10th anniversary of the festival. We gave them, we presented them with pottery that had a Best of Missouri Hands seal in the center.
Yeah, we are very fortunate. We still have Best Missouri Hand members that participate in the fall festival every year at Silver Dollar City. I know that folks like Teresa Killian, Rose Monzik, Julie Hummy. I mean, they've been doing that forever, and like Julie and Teresa, that's the bulk of their sales for the entire year. So they work all year, making art to be able to come down to Silver Dollar City for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's the only show that they do all year. I mean, it's such a nice setup and stuff. So we're grateful that
it is.
You know, that you got that established. You know, so
well, it wasn't
wonderful.
just me. Believe me, it wasn't me. Most of it was Jeff Walker was driving it, and the board, you know, and there were some that said, "Oh, I don't know, we want to be in an amusement park," and we had a lot of discussion, we'll say, but in the long run, it again raising awareness. As long as that Best of Missouri Hands logo was prominently displayed, people started seeing it. What is that? What does that mean? And you have a way to engage with the public and explain to them about your artwork. And it perfectly followed our mission statement of being an educational organization. We're educating the public about all these arts. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. So we
fantastic job.
Well, everybody did who worked on it. Everybody. This one is Big Red Box. We partnered at the and St. Charles at the Foundry Arts Center, and at Christmas of the holiday season, we had a weekend up there, and they brought in our artists. So that went on for a number of years. I think I've got more if you scroll. Now this one, the next one is Celebrating Creativity at William Woods University. I think Ellen Clayman kind of got that ball rolling. And for a number of years, it was a cataloged exhibition of Best of Missouri Hands work, beautiful setting. And again, open to the public. That was always the key, you know, open to the public. So anybody can come and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think my first year as a member of Best Missouri Hands, I participated in the Wildwood or the William Woods University exhibit, and I also did the big red box at the Foundry for a couple years.
Yeah. Any of those venues, they were just great ways to again utilize that organization's publicity. We did Artstravaganza. Originally, it started at the St. Louis Artists Guild in Clayton, and then when they closed there, we got a grant one year from again Regional Arts Commission to do something in St. Louis, and they were working in the old Crestwood Mall. It was a big shopping mall, huge mall that was closing, like so many malls, and they rented the store space out cheap to artists. So you could have a studio until they tore them all down. So they couldn't promise how long you'd have it. So there were a number of artists who were in the mall, and Regional Arts Commission said, well, you can have the whole middle of the place for your show. So we moved our extravaganza over there. We only did that the one year, wasn't particularly successful, but the venue was huge. And we partnered with St. Louis Classical Guitar Society, and they performed a concert with their full orchestra, as well as continual classical guitar music for the whole event. So that was kind of nice. You know, it sounded nice in the big space. And then go on up.
Right.
Yeah. And then this was, and the next one is our extravaganza at the St. Louis Artists Guild. St. Louis Artists Guild, it was actually a mansion, an old mansion. So if you can imagine just like being in little rooms in a house, that's how the show was set up. But it was cozy and intimate right in fall. Kathleen Welson spearheaded that one. And then, oh yeah, the Lunch and Learn
Nice.
fundraisers. This one was at Chandler Hill. We did these all over the place. We went to wineries, and they would host either a wine tasting, or most of the time, like here, we had a luncheon, and they kind of demonstrated how to make the dessert, or how to make this, or how to make that. And we got people to pay to buy tickets to come here. You'll notice mostly it was lots of ladies who came for luncheons. And as I said, we held them all over the state, and raised a lot of money that way. I don't remember what we charged for tickets, $30 or $50. It was, not cheap, but you got a nice lunch, and you got to taste a little wine, and you got to learn something. And you got to learn about Best of Missouri Hands. We also had some artists around the outside of the venue who would set up some of their artwork and display it and sell it as well. So I don't know, is that the last? I don't remember how many pics I had on here, Kim. Oh no, I got a couple. Oh, there's more. I forgot. Yeah, we better get to these. So all the way up, I'm kind of stuck. There we go, Governor's Mansion. And so this was, I've got a few pictures from there. So when I delivered the ornaments, you can scroll on up. Everybody shipped their ornaments to me, and then I loaded up my big truck and took them there. This was delivery day. On the picture on the left, on the far right, or the picture on the right is Mary Benjamin, who at that time was on the board and an owner of Blue Stem. In the middle is Mrs. Holden's aide, Beth, and then on the left is First Lady Laurie Holden. So we got to describe every piece. They looked at every single piece that came out of those boxes. And you can scroll up again. And a couple years, the governor would show up for the unpacking as well. That's Governor Holden on the left. And over on the right is Laurie Perk and Danielle Rosen, I think, Roselle, attending the ceremony. I don't have pictures on the inside. Everybody got all dressed up, and the reception would open first to the Best of Missouri Hands members. We were invited in all by ourselves, and then the crowds would come and stand outside, and the governor would turn on this Christmas tree that's on the lawn, and then the rest of us would come, the rest of the public would come in to see the holiday tree and decorations inside. And the artists got to hang around inside where it was warm and explain our work. This was one of the state dinners. That's Jim Barksdale. I think he's a charter member. He's still doing wood carvings. I see him from time to time. But anyway, our artists were invited, just like this, set up a little table in the governor's mansion and talk with the dignitaries who attended. And then our artists got to attend a very nice dinner as well.
That's nice. We need to get something like
It
that
was.
established again.
It really was. Because they were not artists that were coming there. They were scientists, and they were other state dignitaries, and they were legislators, and they got to learn a lot about what was going on in the state of Missouri in the arts. This is the cabinet. This picture's a little blurry. It was actually the one that the newspaper photographer took, but that's what the cabinet looked like, and it replicated the governor's mansion. And so those are all Best of Missouri Hands artists who were invited in to see the unveiling. And the next one, I think that's the last image. And then that was when we took down the pieces And the first installation, I think, was glass. I think that's glass work, that it was just all glass, and then they take that down, it would be all metal. And so yeah. So
Very nice.
I think that's the last one. Are there any questions or anything else that I can cover? I think we're
Well,
right on time.
I personally think it's been very interesting. Very interesting. I greatly appreciate you.
Well, it's a great
Anybody
organization.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm
Yeah,
glad
it
it's still
always
going
has been.
strong after all these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we're not just a little craft club in Columbia anymore. Maybe more people know about us and know about the great artists in Missouri. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I think it's people make a lot of friends by being a member of the Best of Missouri Hands or Missouri Artisans Association. But even more importantly, I think they really raise their artwork and their craft to a higher level. And make connections that you couldn't make on your own otherwise. So it's very valuable asset. So you're all to be commended for continuing that
agree.
hard work. Yeah.
Thank you. Jamie, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you for sharing all of that. I
You're
was
welcome.
curious, are there still programs that this organization does with the governor's mansion and statewide things like that? Or if not, why did they end? And is there potential for them to come back?
I can answer that one, Jamie.
Okay.
Some of those programs that Mike mentioned are still going, like Silver Dollar City. The governor's mansion, they took that display down a couple years ago during a remodel. I don't know if that's going to go back up again. We've been in contact with them. We need to touch base again. Currently, one thing that we have on a regular basis now, COVID kind of, changed things for a couple years, but we have the Best of Missouri Hands on the Road exhibit. And so right now we've got an exhibit up at the Jacoby Center, which is over in Illinois, which is nice. So that's something that you can participate in. Oh gosh, what else do we have going on that Mike mentioned still?
And the on-road exhibits
we
is a
have a
matter of us
professional-
finding oh, sorry, Kim. It's
Yeah.
with the board and whoever else, we just need to identify galleries and then we approach them and see if we can have a Best of Missouri on the road exhibit. We did one in Joplin last year. We've done it in Lee Summit before. It's a matter of finding a gallery, and we did it in Chillicothe one year. So if you know of galleries, then we're happy to approach them about putting together an exhibit, a Best of Missouri Hands artist. It's a lot of work, but the key is finding a gallery, and then working through the details of that.
Yeah.
So that's an active thing we do.
I neglected to mention the visiting artist program and the scholarship program, professional development scholarship. We got the professional development. We had money left over one year after a conference, and that's how we started that one. And then the visiting artist was the year we got the grant from RAC. We had to do something educational in their area. And so with the money they gave us, we were able to pay 10 artists to go to 10 schools and do a demonstration. And that's how that program got established too. And I think both of those are still,
Yes.
and I always stress, we were not political in any way. We were not political. We were not affiliated with anything. We didn't care who you were. We supported anything. But it was just a matter of always, getting our educational mission out there, telling people about our artwork and about Missouri artists.
Yeah.
And if you're in any way interested in teaching, participating in the visiting artist program, you get a stipend for doing that. It's a chance to get out in the schools and work with the students around art. And it doesn't have to be schools. I shouldn't limit it to that. We've done senior centers, so that you can even suggest places where you would want to do it. And we have a whole process for that. But if you're into teaching, can make it on the road a bit so you can take it to the facilities. it's, you know, you get a little bit of a stipend and a chance to show your art and get more people interested in art, which is a wonderful thing too.
Yeah, I'll look
And
into
even
that.
beyond teaching, I always say that every artist is a teacher, because if you have to tell people about your work, well,
Mhm.
you're instructing them, you're educating them. So just what you do at a show every day is the same as what you would do in a classroom. And often those students never connect with a real artist. You know, they appreciate the time that you spend with them as well.
Thank you.
And like Mike also mentioned too, the professional development grant, that's you can you know, be awarded up to $500. So that's available for our members. I think the application is up on the website now. And you also mentioned we have several galleries in Missouri that are very best Missouri hands friendly. And so, and you live in Columbia, right, Jamie? So, like Mike mentioned, Blue Stem before, Blue Stem Art Gallery, they are very best. You go in there and I mean, I love visiting that gallery because you can just see all the best Missouri hands artist, work that is in there. Waverly House in Springfield is very best Missouri hand friendly, Art Impressions and Sedaya, you know, so I mean, Fresh Gallery in Springfield. So there's, you know, there's a lot of different programs and activities that are available. Next year we'll have Art Smart Conference again. We've gone to every other year now, but I would highly recommend it. You know, like Mike said, that it's a great way to make friends, hang out with other creatives. It's a 3-day event and we have different speakers and, you know, activities and stuff. So there's a lot of things, you know, that are available to our members. And, you know, some things have maybe gone by the wayside and stuff, but I've taken a lot of notes here and like to maybe see some of them get started back up again. But we've got a lot of programs available, you know, for our membership and stuff. But yeah, Mike has kind of got the wheels turning. Got the wheels turning. So the organization is a wonderful organization. Yeah. And it's made up of a lot of great people and it takes a lot of work, but you know,
It
it's
does.
fun. It's fun.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, two thoughts on that. Is there a list of all of the best Missouri hands friendly galleries on the website, maybe in the member area? And if not, suggesting it.
Who are your corporate
Yeah. Okay.
members?
Well,
It's usually a good way
you
to
know what? I will
start.
have to go through and look. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's an excellent thought there, Mike. And that is listed on our newsletter each month, and that is on the website who our corporate members are. So like Blue Stem and Columbia, Columbia Art League,
Right.
Art Impressions, like I already mentioned, Waverly House, those are all listed on the corporate members. So
So basically they're the corporate member galleries. And it's basically the same group.
that would probably, yeah, all the ones that definitely are very Missouri hands friendly, are corporate sponsors, corporate gallery members. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mary, did you have any questions? You're welcome. Mary, did you have any questions for Mike?
No, not right now, but thank you. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And Mary's been a Best Missouri Hands member a long time. She's a juried photographer. And so yeah.
Great.
And Jamie does encaustic work and jewelry. And then Wanda does glass. And you know, I do
Yeah.
the photography and Mike does the scrimshaw. So yeah, it's
I do
got
scrimshaw.
we got a nice
Yeah.
collection of people. Yeah.
Yeah. My phone's been busy today.
So-
PBS did a nice program last night on scrimshaw on the news hour. So it was good
Oh, yeah?
press.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, Jamie, like Mike has said that, you know, Best Missouri Hands over the years has had a lot of good press and all that kind of stuff. One thing that's currently, what has it been, maybe 3 years now? The PBS TV show Make
Mhm.
Did we lose her?
Yeah, I think Kim has gone into frozen mode.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Aw,
One thing too, I could mention too, we had, and I don't know if you still have it, but when someone would jury, we sent them a little packet and they got a form letter that they could just plug in that said so-and-so has been juried, is now a juried member, and explained what the jury process meant and how to reach that person. And then we encouraged them to send that to their local paper, to their local radio station. Once again, to just, you never know who might pick it up, and you might get a plug on, in the paper, or you just never know. So sending out that little blurb sometimes helps.
Yeah, and we tend to, some of us forget, but if you're a juried member, you get a web page on Best of Missouri Hands, and a lot of galleries do go look at that. So, you need to refresh it and keep it with your current work, because a lot of the galleries do go out there looking, if they're looking for a specific kind of artist or just a new artist and what have you. And so they go out and look, and they can search by different criteria. So it's just another web page for you. And I would also suggest you backlink it from your website, because those are good for your people finding you, having backlinks in your website. So there's some extra benefits just by having that page on Best of Missouri Hands. As well as we
just
promote
never know.
anybody who's got art out there, we promote them on our social media as well. Are there any other questions? Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time
You're
to
welcome.
take us through the
Oh,
past and help us to understand how we got where we are today. It was wonderful to
Oh.
learn all the history.
Well, thank you all. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I still, Best of Missouri Hands, near and dear to my heart. I'm still a juried member. And thank you all for keeping the organization going and all that you do to encourage Missouri artists. It's valuable, important work. And thank you.
Thank you.